The St. Louis Cardinals are sinking further and further into the abyss, and fans continue to point to the lack of moves made in free agency as a main reason why. Today, we revisit some of those top names that were available to see if the team really did make a mistake by sticking with their guys on Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. That way you can interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Another series opener and another loss for the Cardinals. Now 0-10 in series openers, which is at this point just kind of laughable that it continues to happen this way. I've never seen anything like this, so I don't really know how to react to it anymore. I'm really trying to keep a sense of humor about it all, because after all, it is just a game. But at the same time, I'm like you. I'm very passionate about this team, about these players, about our fans. It's why I do this podcast. I don't do this just because I need the work. I do it because it's fun and I care about things. I love this game, the game of baseball. I love this franchise. And if you're someone who listens to the show, even casually, you probably feel the same way as I do, that watching them right now go down in flames day in and day out, it's painful. And I got fired up a bit yesterday by something that one of the team's star players and one of the team leaders on this squad said. So I saw a quote from Nolan Arenado, one of the greatest third basemen I have ever seen play this game. I love this dude. I love his passion. I love his energy, his attention to detail. Obviously, he's really good. And then I read this quote and I was like, what, man? So this is courtesy of John Denton at MLB.com. Here's the quote from Arenado. "We've got 5 months left. Sometimes it feels like life or death out here because the expectations are always so high. But there's so much season left. It's hard to comprehend why people are reacting the way they're reacting, but I get it." Wait, what? Hard to comprehend why people are reacting the way that they're reacting to a 10-20 team that was expected to win the NL Central and compete for a championship this year? Expressing disappointment and how this outfield hasn't lived up to expectations after we were told how good they all are? How the offense as a whole has been underwhelming. Specifically, if we're going to point fingers, their star third baseman, who's now hitting .233 this year and just 117 with 1 RBI in his last 15 games. Nobody's saying that Nolan Arenado is a terrible player and that he needs to be benched or anything, but he struggled pretty badly, just like a lot of these guys. Is it hard to comprehend why a fan base who shows up in droves every year, 3 million people through the turnstiles every year at Busch Stadium, is questioning a front office who has had 3 managers since 2018 and hasn't won a title since Tony La Russa was in charge? The same front office that traded away a Cy Young winner in Sandy Alcantara, a Cy Young candidate this year in Zach Gallen, a Rookie of the Year and ALCS MVP winner in Randy Arozarena, and an all-star outfielder who's averaged 29 home runs and 96 RBIs every year since being shipped out in Adolis Garcia? The same front office that has flushed money down the toilet on free agents like Brett Cecil, Andrew Miller, Greg Holland, Mike Leake, Dexter Fowler, who I do stick up for because he wasn't as bad as everybody thinks he was. He just didn't live up to expectations because of the size of the contract he got. But Dexter Fowler, for most of his time in a Cardinal uniform, did Dexter Fowler things. It's just the Cardinals overpaid for a guy who they thought was going to be a game changer, and he wasn't that guy. And everybody knew it except our front office. Speaking of the front office, same front office that went out and gave Steven Matz a 4-year deal. How's that working out so far? He's well on his way to becoming another name in a long line of free agent mistakes. Their ability to evaluate talent is questionable right now. I mean, look at these names. But isn't the reason why the fan base is like this and why we get upset, isn't that why you became a Cardinal in the first place, Nolan? Because we hold people accountable. We have a passion to win each and every year. This fan base is not used to seeing their team lose like this. We're not. This is not normal. And we sure as hell aren't used to watching our team play like this. Sloppy, uninspired. And at times they seem like they're unprepared. The last time I remember a Cardinals team playing this way and looking like this was when Mike Matheny was in charge. I was there at the last game that he was a manager, a 9-1 shellacking by the Cincinnati Reds. And there haven't been a whole lot of times in my life where watching the Cardinals play baseball isn't fun. At that time, when Matheny was in charge, Cardinal baseball was not fun to watch. It was ugly. But even that team at the time wasn't as bad as what's going on today. And that's where we are right now. This isn't fun. Watching them play this way is not fun. The front office, the coaches, the players, they're all preaching patience. And I'm with them. I really am with them. But I'm frustrated too, guys. Now, when the team did fire Mike Matheny in that year, I believe it was 2018, it was in July when that happened. So it's not like it was one bad month and then he got canned. In fact, that season, they started out okay, and then they had a bad June. In July was going really, really bad as well. And they looked like this team that we're watching right now. Just going through the motions, just hanging their heads. They just don't look like they want to be out there. And change had to be made. Matheny got fired. Mike Schilt comes in. Go to the playoffs. This is still the beginning of May. And I know you don't want to hear that it's early. But there have been plenty of teams that have had horrendous starts to their seasons and then went on to find success. Like Brad Pitt says in Moneyball, this is a war of attrition, okay? This is a long season. 2005 Astros, at one point in that year, 18-32, went to the World Series. Lost to the White Sox, but they went to the World Series. 2019 Washington Nationals were 19-31 at one point. Won the World Series. Last year, the Phillies and the Mariners were 21-29. Both teams went to the playoffs. Phillies go to the World Series. It's not ridiculous and out of this world to think that this team could turn it around, but patience is running thin. They need to start showing some life, and they need to do it soon. Now, one of the things that people point at that they believe has led to this bad start is the lack of urgency to get any starting pitching during free agency this past offseason. So for fun, I thought, let's go back and see how all of these guys are doing. We'll go through a bunch of the top names that were the top pitchers available and see if the front office indeed made a mistake by not signing any of them and instead sticking with their guys. And I've also got a little thing here where Major League Baseball analyst mentions that the Cardinals might be talking to another team in the American League about a trade. So I'll get that to you here in just a bit on Locked On Cardinals. Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Because most Americans think that they spend, I don't know, about $80 a month on subscriptions when the actual total is closer to $200. That's a big difference. If you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, then you need Rocket Money. It's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills, and it's all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions that they totally forget about, and chances are you're one of them. Rocket Money will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you and for any that you don't want to pay for anymore. You hit cancel, Rocket Money will cancel it for you. That's how easy it is. They'll help you manage all your finances in one place and automatically categorize your expenses so you can easily track your budget in real time and also get alerted if anything looks off. Over 3 million people are using Rocket Money, save the average person about $720 a year. I'm sure you could use that. That would be a nice chunk of change. Put it towards a vacation or something. So stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. The Cardinals are facing Shohei Ohtani and the Angels tonight at Busch, and you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Cardinals. I want to thank all my everydayers for joining us each and every day. I know it's tough when the guys are losing, and it's tough to put a show together when they're losing because I hate talking about negative stuff all the time. But watching and reading and seeing all the stuff that's going on online, we're all trying to figure out where did everything go wrong? What spot did either the front office or the coach, who's making the mistake, and where did things start to go bad for this team? And if you were with me during the offseason, you'll remember me saying that when it came to gathering pitching through free agency, that there really wasn't a whole lot of top of the rotation guys. You had a bunch of names, but top of the rotation guys that would really make a difference for this Cardinals pitching rotation, there just wasn't a lot of them. There legitimately was three. You had Justin Verlander, who was the AL Cy Young Award winner, Jacob deGrom from the Mets, who always got hurt, and then Carlos Rodon from the Giants. Everyone else was a tier or two below them. And fans are pointing at the front office's lack of spending on free agents as part of the reason why this team is where they are. The biggest mistake in my eyes was when Mo goes out in public in a press conference and says payroll is going up and then doesn't spend any money. Huge backfire right there because it got everybody excited about maybe they're going to splurge a little bit and go get one of these top tier guys. And anything you heard from Mo after those guys had signed elsewhere was, we weren't really in the market for any of those guys. Not just the pitchers either. We're talking any of the shortstops, any of the other players that were out there, like, no, kind of blown out of proportion how much we had talked to those guys. So it was bad. Nobody liked it. It still bothers me that he went out and said that and then didn't follow up on that. But when it comes to spending money on the starting pitching, two big guys right now are who people are really upset with, specifically Steven Matz, who's been flaming dog poop stinky, and then Jake Woodford, who, let's be honest, wasn't supposed to be in the rotation. He's filling in for Adam Wainwright, but still he hasn't lived up to the promise that we saw in spring training. So we're disappointed in him too. So I thought we should take a look at what the guys that fans are mad at Mo for not signing to see if they would have made much of a difference in what's happening with the Cardinals so far in 2023. So let's start with Justin Verlander. Got 2 years, almost $87 million from the Mets. Hasn't even pitched yet. So if you would sign Justin Verlander and he had what happened to him, but he just instead was wearing a Cardinals uniform, you'd be pretty pissed off. Hasn't pitched yet, has a back issue, set to make a season debut on Thursday. We'll see how that goes. But that wouldn't have worked out. Jacob deGrom, 5 years, $185 million. We know about his injury history. 2-0 this year, 2.87 ERA in 6 starts. He's looked pretty darn good. But guess what? He's back on the DL, right elbow inflammation. Carlos Rodon got that 6-year, $162 million deal with the Yankees. He hasn't pitched yet this season due to a left forearm strain. And then now he's dealing with back issues. It's not the elbow anymore or the forearm that's bothering him anymore. Now it's his back. He can't get on the field. He can barely play catch. Imagine if they had signed Rodon to that deal and he was going through what he's through with the Yankees right now, how upset we'd be. Now, all three of those guys were likely out of the Cardinals market anyway with the money they were going to make. It didn't seem like the Cardinals were willing to go that high. But clearly the risk in signing them, it hasn't paid off much for any of the teams that got them. How about some other guys that were out there? Chris Bassett, somebody I thought would have fit well into this rotation. He ended up signing with Toronto, 3 years, $63 million. He's 3-2, but his ERA is over 5. Nathan Eovaldi, Texas Rangers, 2 years, $34 million. He's 3-2, ERA at 3.93. But until his last outing, which was an amazing complete game shutout that he threw against the Yankees, he was 2-2. His ERA was over 5. Noah Syndergaard, whom the Cardinals faced on Sunday with the Dodgers and somehow could not beat. He's 1-3 with an ERA over 6. Jameson Taillon signed with the Cubs, 4 years, $68 million. He's 0-2. His ERA is 4.50. Corey Kluber went to the Red Sox, 1-4. His ERA is over 6. Clayton Kershaw was a free agent, but did anyone really think he was going to leave the Dodgers? I mean, come on. Why would he ever go anywhere else? So that was silly. But none of these guys, at least so far, would have made much of a difference. Now, sure, you could say the team could have traded some of their outfield depth for pitching, something I said would have been a great idea since you had so many of them. So that's a valid reason to be upset. You're right. Pablo Lopez was the big name that went trade-wise to the Twins. They did give up an AL batting champion to get him. The Cardinals outfielders are not AL batting champions, not by a long shot. None of them are. So not sure they even had the ammunition to go get that guy. So the fact that Mo stuck with his guys, with the guys that were already in this organization, it really hasn't been that bad of a move because they didn't overpay for a bunch of guys who weren't any good anyway. It's just the guys you haven't performed up to expectations. Michaelis comes out of the gate slow. He has looked better in the last few starts. Flaherty, he's been up and down. You'll see some moments of dominance, and then you'll see him struggle a little bit. But for the most part, better than a lot of people anticipated because we weren't sure if he was going to be healthy. What was he going to look like? Did he still have the passion to play? I think if you had to give a grade to Flaherty right now, C, maybe a B. He's been better than I think a lot of people thought. Montgomery has been outstanding outside of the one batting outing against Arizona. Dude is going to get paid this offseason if he keeps this up. And you haven't had Adam Wainwright yet, who should add some stability to things. Yeah, he's not throwing 94, 95 or whatever. When was the last time Adam did throw that hard, though? He's a crafty old right-hander, Uncle Charlie. And he's a big piece of this team's identity. So I think it'd be great to have him back on the team. Should be here soon. What to do with Matz, though? That's the real question right now. Does he go to the bullpen? Do you bring up Matthew Liberatore and send Matz to the pen, option one of the other guys down? I don't know. But it's getting to the point where they have to do something, right? Something's got to change. I mentioned leading into this that there was an MLB analyst that says the Cardinals have kind of been sniffing around somebody in the American League. Jim Bowden from MLB Network and The Athletic said this in his recent article. The Cardinals front office has to be considering trades for a starting pitcher. And rumors are already swirling about their interest in White Sox righty Lucas Giolito, who will be a free agent after the season, as well as several of the Marlins starters. And I actually brought up to a buddy of mine who works in radio, big White Sox fan, because they're having a tough go too. The White Sox stink just like the Cardinals. And I don't know if you saw the play with Luis Robert where hit a tapper, didn't run it out, and it was a big deal. And I mentioned to him, Luis Robert looks like a guy who could use a change of scenery. Same goes for a lot of these Cardinals outfielders. What about a Luis Robert, Lucas Giolito, or Lance Lynn trade that would involve Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, a Jake Woodford? You could throw in a Juan Yepes or another one of these guys that just has no place to play in your system. Luken Baker, crushing it at Memphis. You got nowhere to put him. Moises Gomez, struggling, but potential after leading the minor leagues in home runs last year. You've got a lot of these same guys just stuck at AAA. So use them to go get somebody to help this team. Now, you're not going to go get some superstar because the trade value on these guys is pretty low right now. But we're getting to the point where there's got to be a shakeup of some sort. And if it's not going to be managerial wise, which a lot of people want, I just don't see it happening. It's got to be with your personnel that you're putting out there. So we'll see how aggressive they get as, again, the Cardinals continue to slip further in the standings. They're going to face perhaps the greatest all-around player in the league tonight, perhaps the greatest all-around player in the world tonight. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Cardinals. Our new sponsor, Sorare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. And unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly own their fantasy experience by collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. And win or lose, you get to keep your cards. There's no cost to play. Now, you are allowed, if you want to, you can put some money in there to get even better cards, but you don't have to. You don't have to. I haven't spent a penny on the Sorare cards that I've gotten so far. And the more you win, the more you advance collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. You go to the top of those leaderboards, you do really, really well. You can win a variety of things like Sorare Scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, plus VIP experiences, which include meeting MLB stars. So there's a lot of benefit to doing well in this game. So head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free players. Set your lineup, start competing today, win those epic rewards against that sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. The Cardinals will face, as I mentioned, arguably the greatest player on the entire planet Earth when Shohei Ohtani takes the mound for the Angels tonight against the Cardinals, and you can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Cardinals. Yesterday, the Cardinals unleashed their new patch sponsor. Did you guys see this? I'm sure you did. They had a big press conference about it. On YouTube, you can see the patch itself. Stifle. Same guys that do the Blues sponsorship. So that's on the jerseys now. And my first thought was, because I can be a bit of a smart aleck from time to time, was, does this mean payroll is going up again, Mo? We got extra money now that you got a sponsor paying for something else. They're now the 9th team in Major League Baseball to have a jersey sponsor now, so they're not the only one. I know it's going to drive the fans from yesteryear crazy that is on the sleeve of a Cardinals uniform now, but it's the world we live in. They also announced the move of sending Zack Thompson down to Memphis and called up Guillermo Zuniga, who pitched last night, struck out 2 in his lone inning of work. The Thompson send down, gosh, like 2 weeks ago, you never would have considered it, right? Never would have considered it. He'd been their best left-handed pitcher out of the bullpen all season, even in the spring, and hasn't looked great the last few times out. The plan, I guess, now is Ollie says they're going to transition him back into a starter. The guy was outstanding at a 0 ERA in his first 8 appearances, got touched up in his last 3. So they're hitting the abort button on him as a reliever. They're going to restart his career as a starter where, let's be honest, he wasn't very good in 2021. Was 2-10 with an ERA over 7. Okay, whatever. We're going back to that. In my eyes, it's more inconsistent decision-making. I don't understand it. He was very, very good until the last 3 outings, and now we're just going to, let's just start his whole career over as a starter. Had a scoreless spring, 8 more scoreless appearances before teams finally scored upon him in his last 3 outings, and just like that, he's off the team and restarting things in Memphis. It just sounds bad, right? Like when I put it out there for you that way, doesn't it just sound bad? Maybe it's just me. Hopefully it works out, because I know people are like, turn him back into a starter so he can be really, really good as a starter. The problem is he wasn't very good as a starter when he was in the minors. So again, I hope it works out. Shohei Ohtani on the mound tonight for the Angels against the Cardinals. Not really the best guy to try and end a losing streak against. Caught this picture. You can see it on YouTube of Newt and Shohei catching up in the Cardinals outfield yesterday. Ohtani is 4-0 this year with a 1.85 ERA, 46 Ks in 34 innings. Cardinals don't hit righties very well in the first place. And the funny thing is, Ohtani just got rocked his last time out on the mound by a team you would never guess that he would get hit hard by, the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's, out of all teams, roughed him up a bit, and his ERA going into that game against Oakland was at 0.64. Crazy. And it went all the way up to 1.85. If Patrick Sandoval last night is giving you fits, Shohei might throw a no-no tonight. He might, with the way this offense is going. Miles Michaelis will oppose him. Miles is 1-1, ERA 5.97, but coming off his best outing of the year against San Francisco, which is also the last time the Cardinals actually won a game. We've lost 4 in a row, people. It's not good. Be sure to catch every pitch of the Cardinals' hometown broadcast for tonight's game with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Cardinals. First pitch is scheduled for 6:45 St. Louis time from Busch. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Help the channel grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball. You're being very patient. I understand that. Keep it up. Keep it up. There's still time. I think there's still time. I'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Have a good one.